Hi, I'm Juan Williams in for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us. Our top story tonight, major developments in the Rush Limbaugh NFL controversy. As many of you know, Rush was dropped from the group that's trying to buy the St. Louis Rams. But now we're learning lots of new information about some of the people who didn't want Limbaugh in the game. For example, NFL Players Association Executive Director DeMaurice Smith objected to Limbaugh. He said that pro football is at its best when it rejects discrimination and hatred. Now, everybody knows that Rush is a huge critic of the Obama administration. But here's something that you probably did not know. Smith worked on President Obama's transition team, and he also used to work with Attorney General Eric Holder. Did you know that? And another man who doesn't like Rush, a talk radio host named Warren Ballentine, was on the O'Reilly Factor with me last night talking about some of Rush's controversial comments. But instead of having a civil discussion, he decided to take a cheap shot at me. Roll the tape.
Let's look at him playing Barack the Magic Negro on his show. And we're going to say, oh, that's just funny, that's just a joke. That's not racial either. I mean, the reality of it is racial to real black people.
Hey, Warren, you were saying that my argument was a red herring. Maybe you should do some research. Go back and find out that it was an article written by a black person, headline about Barack the Magic Negro.
But he made it out of a song and played. He made it out of a song and played it on his show.
So what? He's making fun of it.
It's okay. You can go back to the porch, Warren. Right.
Did you catch that? This guy told me to go back to the porch. That's code for being an Uncle Tom, house Negro, lazy, a tool of slave owners. Incidentally, Ballentine is proud of having taken a cheap shot as this debate was over and he had nothing else to say. He's bragging about it. A real man would probably apologize, say it was in poor taste, and move on. Apparently, it's okay to use these kinds of racial slurs as long as you're defending what some consider the politically correct point of view. Joining us now from Seattle, Washington, is Pastor Ken Hutcherson, a former NFL linebacker and a personal friend of Rush Limbaugh. And from Los Angeles, radio talk show host, Tammy Bruce. Thank you both for coming in. Reverend Hutcherson, let me begin with you. This guy, I mean, if you're a black man and you stand up and say something that's not politically correct, defend a Rush Limbaugh, and you're his friend, you see what they did to me, you must know what they will do to you.
Well, you got to understand something, Juan, and it's very important for everyone that's listening to understand this, and I want to be extremely clear on this. This is extremely personal to me. You see, to you, Juan, this is a news story, a big news story. And to the young lady that's from L.A., you know, this is a news story. This is more than a news story. See, Rush and I are friends, close friends. And when you talk about being close friends, I don't see Rush as a white man. He's my friend. I don't see him as a talk show host, a very famous talk show host. He's a very close friend. That overrides my political views and everything. So this attack is about a friend of mine who is being lied upon, and I don't care what others think about.
Well, let me just say this.
Or anything else.
Let me just say this to you, Reverend Hutcherson. You can also say that a friend is wrong, but in this case, when you don't think the friend is being legitimately criticized, that when you think things are being falsely said about him and you stand up as a black man to say it, well, God help you, God help me, because now we are the targets of attacks and we are made out to be less than faithful to all that's happened to black people in America and honest in our criticism. We're made out to be house slaves.
I'm going to tell you, man, what Warren Ballentine said to you was one of the most racist statements that you could get. The man just flat out called you a house Negro, and I don't know if white America understands the derogatory statement that was. And we should not be able to put up with that kind of rhetoric from the other side who call themselves tolerant. We are conservatives. I'm a Christian. I'm a pastor. I lead a very large church. And what they are doing to Rush, this isn't about just Rush. This is about attacking conservative values in America. And I'm not going to put up with it because he's a friend, and I'm not going to put up with it because he's...
Now, Tammy Bruce, let me come to you, because I think that what we have seen this week in terms of what took place here is the MSNBCs and CNNs of the world being all too happy to put out statements attributed to Rush that then later turn out to be absolutely wrong. We see the NFL Players Association trying to use this because they're in the midst of contract negotiations and they want to knock Roger Goodell, the commissioner, back on his heels, make him feel defensive. What we're seeing here is so much information coming out about how the Obama administration and their friends were all involved with this. It's only now being revealed.
Well, at least it is being revealed, and this is what the American people need to see, is how many fronts were operating at once. The media, certainly, the unions via the NFL there, social arguments via Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, the community organizers. When I was on the left, we used all of these elements to move a point, but never have I seen, including in my time on the left, such an effort being put on to actually destroy an individual. And the fact is, the American people have to ask themselves, with this kind of coordinated effort, where was it based? And if this is the kind of dynamic they want for all of us here discussing this as minorities, you and I, Juan, we don't always agree. For Dr. Hutcherson, for myself as a gay woman, we have very different social perspectives. But what we all do recognize is that this is an effort to isolate and to demonize those who do not conform. And the people that are harmed by that the most are minorities. And every American, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, has to ask, is this kind of power that is now wielded by the Obama administration, we saw it during the campaign too with Geraldine Ferraro and the Clintons, is this kind of power and desire to destroy, is it acceptable to anyone for any reasons? And I think the American people are saying no.
Is there a double standard?
We as political commentators use strong words to describe our opponents. The difference is this seems to be people attached to the American presidential administration or the government using phrases and frameworks to not just cast Rush Limbaugh as an example as someone, or Geraldine Ferraro. These are attempts to destroy. It's one thing to have an opinion and to voice it in an aggressive manner, but it's quite another to make an effort to destroy people and, as the doctor mentioned, to send a message, and as you've noted, Juan, to other people, if you do this, we're going to hurt you too.
You know what? I find this so unbelievable. It seems to me that even for me, as someone who sees himself on the liberal side of things, the minute that you disagree, you get put down. Reverend Tammy, thank you. We appreciate it. Next up on The Factor, President Obama takes another swing at cable news. You'll hear what he said this time, and